Listen, something just went down in Cleveland that nobody saw coming. I'm talking about a complete power shift inside the Browns organization that's going to change everything you thought you knew about this team. This isn't your typical coaching adjustment or play calling tweak. What happened in the last 72 hours is unprecedented in modern NFL history, and it's all centered around one person, Shedeur Sanders. Tommy Rees just staged what can only be described as an organizational takeover. The offensive coordinator didn't just get more responsibility, he effectively removed Kevin Stefanski from his position of authority and is now running this football team. And the first thing he did, hand the starting quarterback job to Shedeur Sanders, the same Shedeur Sanders that Stefanski has been burying on the depth chart all season long. The same player who mysteriously keeps appearing on injury reports despite being completely healthy. The same quarterback that everyone except Stefanski could see deserved a real opportunity. Think about what that means for a second. An offensive coordinator stepping over his head coach and taking control of game day operations. That doesn't happen. Coordinators don't just decide one day they're running the show now. But that's exactly what went down in Cleveland. And it happened because the situation got so toxic, so dysfunctional, that ownership had no choice but to intervene in the most dramatic way possible. The official announcement came out like a bombshell. Cleveland Browns named Tommy Rees as acting head coach. Acting head coach, not interim, not temporary, while Stefanski deals with personal matters. Acting head coach because Kevin Stefanski has been stripped of his game day authority. The man who won Coach of the Year just a couple seasons ago is now watching from the sidelines while his own coordinator runs his team. That's humiliation on a level rarely seen in professional sports. What makes this even more telling is what happened immediately after Rees took control. First team reps went straight to Shedeur Sanders, not split reps, not a competition where the established starter gets preferential treatment. Shedeur got the keys to the offense. Rees started working with him extensively, installing concepts that fit his skill set, building chemistry, treating him like an actual franchise quarterback instead of a draft mistake that needs to be hidden. The practice footage that leaked tells you everything. Rees is locked in with Shedeur, going through progressions, working on timing routes, studying defensive coverages together. Shedeur looks sharp, confident, engaged. He's finally getting real coaching from someone who believes in what he can do. That's been missing all season long. Stefanski treated Shedeur like a problem that needed to be managed. Rees is treating him like the solution the Browns have been desperately searching for. Now contrast that with how Stefanski handled questions about Shedeur just days before this coup happened. When reporters asked why he wouldn't give Shedeur a chance, his response was dismissive, almost insulting. That's not what I'm focused on right now. Translation, I don't care what you think. I don't care what the fans want. I don't care that my offense is failing. Dillon Gabriel is my guy, and nothing is changing my mind. That stubbornness, that refusal to adapt, that's what cost him everything. Because here's what Stefanski didn't understand or chose to ignore. The locker room was turning on him. Myles Garrett, the franchise cornerstone, the best defensive player in the NFL, publicly criticized the offensive decision-making. When your star player goes to the media expressing frustration, that's a 5-alarm fire that ownership can't ignore. Garrett didn't have to say Stefanski's name specifically. Everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. The offense was holding this team back, and the defensive players who were giving everything they had were sick of watching their effort get wasted. Then you had media members with connections inside the organization absolutely torching Stefanski's approach. Garrett Bush went on record saying Stefanski had elite weapons and was running one of the worst offenses in football. He pointed out that Jerry Jeudy, a 1,000-yard receiver, didn't get his first target until the fourth quarter in their loss to the Patriots. Fourth quarter. Your best playmaker on offense doesn't touch the ball for 3 quarters of football. That's not bad luck or execution issues. That's systematic failure at the coaching level. And through all of this, Shedeur Sanders sat on the sideline, completely healthy according to multiple sources including his own mother on social media, but mysteriously inactive due to supposed back problems. The cover story was so thin it was insulting. Everyone could see what was really happening. Stefanski made his choice with Dillon Gabriel, and nothing, not performance, not locker room sentiment, not logic was going to change his mind. That's when owner Jimmy Haslam apparently decided enough was enough. During the bye week, there were serious conversations about the future of this franchise. Not just about this season, but about whether Kevin Stefanski was capable of leading this team forward. The conclusion they reached was unprecedented. Strip Stefanski of play-calling duties, elevate Tommy Rees to acting head coach, and give Shedeur Sanders the opportunity he's earned. Think about what a risk this is for everyone involved. For Haslam, this is admitting publicly that his head coach can't do the job. For Rees, this is stepping into a situation where he's undermining his boss, burning that bridge permanently. For Shedeur, this is possibly his only real shot to prove he belongs in this league. The stakes couldn't be higher for anyone involved, but here's why this move makes complete sense despite how chaotic it looks. Tommy Rees brings a completely different offensive philosophy than Stefanski. Rees is aggressive, creative, willing to attack defenses vertically. He believes in his quarterback's ability to make plays downfield. That's exactly what Shedeur needs. His entire skill set is built around arm strength, accuracy, quick processing, making plays in space. Stefanski's conservative run-heavy approach was wasting all of that talent. The practice footage shows Rees installing an offense that maximizes Shedeur's strengths. Quick timing routes that utilize his anticipation, deep shots that showcase his arm talent, pre-snap adjustments that demonstrate his football intelligence. This is what Shedeur has been waiting for all season. A coach who actually wants to feature what makes him special instead of hiding him on the bench. Players inside that building have noticed the energy shift. You can see it in how they carry themselves at practice. There's excitement again, hope that maybe this season isn't completely lost. That's what happens when players see the coaching staff finally making logical decisions instead of stubborn ones. They start believing again. For Stefanski, this has to be absolutely crushing. Your own offensive coordinator taking over your team. The owners publicly stating they don't trust your judgment anymore. Players excited about the change. Media praising the decision. Everything about this situation screams that you failed, and everyone knows it. There's no coming back from this professionally. Even if he somehow finishes the season as head coach on paper, he's lost all credibility, all authority, all respect. And honestly, he did this to himself. If Stefanski had just been open-minded about the quarterback situation from the beginning, if he'd given Shedeur legitimate competition opportunities, if he'd made decisions based on performance instead of ego, none of this happens. But he dug in his heels, protected Dillon Gabriel beyond reason, and allegedly fabricated injury reports to keep Shedeur off the field. That level of dysfunction forced ownership's hand. Now let's talk about what this means for Shedeur, because the pressure just got real. This isn't practice squad reps or garbage time appearances. This is potentially starting an NFL game with everyone watching. If he struggles, if the offense looks just as bad with him as it did with Gabriel, then maybe Stefanski was right. Maybe Shedeur wasn't ready. But if he comes out and plays well, if he shows composure, accuracy, playmaking ability, if he runs Rees's offense effectively and gives the Browns something they haven't had all season, then everything changes. Suddenly he's the franchise quarterback. Suddenly the Browns found their future. Suddenly Kevin Stefanski looks like the biggest fool in the NFL for not playing him sooner. That's the magnitude of this opportunity. One game could define Shedeur's entire career trajectory. From everything we've seen, Shedeur appears ready for this moment. His demeanor in practice, his communication with Rees, his preparation habits, everything points to a player who's been waiting for exactly this chance. He's put in the work, studied the film, learned the playbook inside and out. Now he finally gets to show what he can do with an offensive coordinator who believes in him. The relationship between Rees and Shedeur could become something special if given time to develop. The practice footage shows genuine communication, mutual respect, a coach explaining concepts, and a quarterback asking intelligent questions and making quick adjustments. That's a completely different dynamic than what existed with Stefanski's staff, where Shedeur was treated like a problem rather than a solution. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel has to be processing some difficult emotions. The coach who protected him and believed in him is now powerless. The new coach clearly wants to explore other options. Gabriel's time as the starter is probably over, and that's unfortunate because he was put in an impossible situation from the start. Bad offensive line play, conservative play calling, a system that didn't fit his strengths. But the harsh reality is he didn't perform well enough to keep the job, and now someone else is getting their chance. The locker room dynamics through all this must be fascinating. Myles Garrett and other veterans who've been frustrated all season are probably thrilled. Finally, the coaching staff is willing to take chances and try something different. But there might also be players who feel bad for Stefanski, who respect what he accomplished in previous years, who don't like seeing him publicly demoted. That kind of division can be dangerous if not managed carefully. Tommy Rees didn't orchestrate this takeover to embarrass his former boss or settle personal scores. He did it because someone had to save the Browns from complete collapse. The team was spiraling, players were losing faith, fans were furious, and Stefanski was so committed to bad decisions that he couldn't or wouldn't course correct. Rees stepped in to salvage whatever's left of this season. What happens next depends entirely on how Shedeur performs. If he plays well and the offense finally shows signs of life, does Rees keep control? Does he get promoted to permanent head coach while Stefanski gets fired? Or does everything somehow revert back to how it was before? The answer probably depends on ownership's assessment of whether Stefanski can effectively lead after being so publicly undermined. Personally, I think this is the beginning of the end for Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. When your own coordinator stages a coup and ownership backs him instead of you, when you've completely lost the locker room, when your stubbornness led to organizational dysfunction, you can't recover from that professionally. Even if they let him finish the season, he'll never have real authority again. His credibility is destroyed. His relationships are broken beyond repair. For Shedeur Sanders, this represents the fresh start he desperately needed. A coach who believes in him. A real opportunity, a chance to prove what he can do when given proper support and play calling that fits his strengths. The difference between how he was treated under Stefanski versus how Rees is approaching him couldn't be more stark. Stefanski's offensive philosophy has been conservative, predictable, boring, lots of runs into stacked boxes, short passes that don't challenge defenses, minimal deep shots. It's an offense designed not to lose rather than trying to win. Rees's approach is completely different. He wants to attack aggressively, create explosive plays, put pressure on defenses, force them to cover the entire field. That's the kind of offense where Shedeur can thrive. The timing of this move is strategic too. Coming out of the bye week gives ownership cover to frame this as a calculated adjustment rather than a panic move. They don't have to make changes immediately after another loss. They can present it as strategic recalibration during a natural break. But make no mistake, this absolutely is a panic move. This is ownership seeing disaster approaching and taking drastic action to try salvaging the season. Whether it works remains unknown. Shedeur could struggle just like Gabriel did. The offensive line might not protect any better. Play calling could still be predictable despite the coaching change. But at least they're trying something different. At least they're giving a talented young quarterback a legitimate chance. At least they're demonstrating to players and fans that they're willing to take bold action when necessary. The national media is eating this story up because it has everything. Power struggle between head coach and coordinator. Controversial quarterback decision. Player's mother publicly contradicting team injury reports. Ownership intervening dramatically. This is must-watch drama for anyone following the NFL, and it's all happening in Cleveland, a franchise familiar with dysfunction, but rarely at this public intensity level. Browns fans must be experiencing conflicting emotions right now. Excitement that Shedeur finally gets his opportunity. Embarrassment at how broken the organization appears. Hope that Rees can fix things. Cynicism born from years of disappointment. Browns fans have been let down too many times to get overly optimistic, but you can sense the anticipation building. People genuinely want to see what Shedeur can do. They want to believe this is finally the moment when everything changes. The next few days before game day will be intensely scrutinized. Every practice report, every injury update, every comment from players or coaches will get analyzed for clues about what's really happening inside that building. Is Shedeur definitely starting, or is there still uncertainty? How is Dillon Gabriel handling being replaced? Is Kevin Stefanski involved at all or completely sidelined? These questions will dominate Browns coverage until we get definitive answers. Then comes game day itself. If Shedeur starts, every throw gets magnified, every completion celebrated, every incompletion questioned, every drive analyzed extensively. The pressure will be immense, the attention overwhelming, but Shedeur has handled pressure situations his entire career. He played in massive college games, watched by millions. He's dealt with the burden of being Deion Sanders' son his whole life. He can handle starting one NFL game. The real question is whether the Browns can handle what comes next regardless of how Shedeur performs. If he succeeds, they must acknowledge Kevin Stefanski made catastrophic errors and implement lasting changes. If he struggles, they need to determine what the actual long-term answer at quarterback truly is. Either way, this franchise sits at a critical crossroads. The decisions made over the next few weeks will impact this organization for years. What we're witnessing in Cleveland is organizational chaos at the highest level, but it's also potentially the birth of something new. Tommy Rees taking control, Shedeur Sanders getting his opportunity, Kevin Stefanski watching his authority evaporate. This is dramatic, unprecedented, and absolutely must-see television for NFL fans. The Browns just had their entire power structure flipped upside down in 72 hours, and now we get to watch what happens when desperation meets opportunity, when stubbornness meets consequence. When a talented young quarterback finally gets the chance everyone except his head coach thought he deserved. Buckle up, because this story is far from over. What happens next in Cleveland will be talked about for years, whether Shedeur becomes the franchise savior or this experiment crashes spectacularly. Either way, the NFL has never seen anything quite like what just went down with the Cleveland Browns. A coordinator overthrowing his head coach, ownership publicly backing the coup, a buried quarterback suddenly thrust into the spotlight. This is the kind of chaos that defines franchises and careers, and it's all happening right now in real time for everyone to witness. The Cleveland Browns just changed forever, and Shedeur Sanders is at the absolute center of it all.